All right, welcome everyone. This is a very exciting time. It is the first ever Coin Rivet episode. We got the man, the myth, Rob Yong, who is the owner of Dusk Till Dawn, among many other, I guess you call it hats. He does it all in poker. But Rob, thank you for being here. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Long time no see, long time no speak.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's good to catch up. I know you've been extremely busy. I know a bit of behind the scenes, and then of course you're very public on Twitter and the revivance of Dusk Till Dawn. Congrats on that. I know that was a few years kind of paused, and with COVID and all that, maybe tell us a little bit about that. What's going on and Dusk Till Dawn being back?
Well, we opened the club back in October after about 18 months shut, and unfortunately, half our dealer pool actually went off to do other things, went back to other countries. So we're trying to build our dealer pool back up through training, through recruiting. So we always said we'd do a soft opening and then come back next year with some bigger events. So that's the plan. We did a Grand Prix, 1,000 players, but we had to cap it, which is unfortunate. Some people missed out, but we're just taking it slowly, trying to build the quality, and hopefully we'll be back in full swing by halfway through next year. And we have about 100 dealers to service our tournaments, and we were left with 50 after COVID, and you can't blame people for going off and doing other things. I wish they'd let us know while we were paying them that we were going off and doing other things, but yeah, we could take a bit of time, and I think that's the case in a lot of places in the UK. A lot of card rooms just completely shut, and I know some of the tours that are looking at setting up, they're struggling a little bit with dealers. People have just gone and got other occupations. But, yeah, DTP's looking good. You know, I'm enjoying being back at the club again. Nice to see all the locals, and yeah, we just take it slowly. Hopefully, have our first big event in April. The £500 buying event, $500,000 guarantee, and we'll go from there. Really.
Very cool. Yeah, I know. I've been there several times. It's a great venue. Very, very cool. I hope to be back there soon. I got to ask you, because with Coin Rivet kind of focusing within the payments and crypto, I got to know. I see a lot of brands and partnerships that you're involved with, and obviously you travel the world, and crypto is a big part of poker. Is that something? Will Dusk Till Dawn, are they going to be taking crypto, and just in general, what are your views on crypto and poker and how they kind of intersect?
I'd like to take crypto at Dusk Till Dawn. There's no law against it, but we've not done it yet, so we've never accepted crypto at Dusk Till Dawn. But I do see crypto. Well, two things are going to happen. It's either going to become adopted, it's quicker, it's more convenient, it's borderless, or the governments are going to really clamp down on it. I'm not sure which way it's going to go. And you also get some governments that don't clamp down on it, some that do. So it's kind of a weird spot, really. But certainly we've taken crypto for some of the venues, some of the big events from the venues where the venues accept crypto. It's definitely become more adopted in poker. And I would guess that it's going to be a big part of poker now and going forward. I mean, we just did the Super High Roller Bowl at the Merit last year, and there was a lot of buy-ins there in crypto. So definitely becoming more and more adopted. I hear on the Vegas Strip, the Resorts World, you can buy in crypto now. So yeah, I think it's going to be a big part of poker. But one of the problems with poker is moving money around the world, and crypto is borderless, so it fixes a lot of issues for poker players.
I got to just ask quickly then your prediction. It's fun, futures and sort of wagering and making predictions. What do you think about the price of Bitcoin? Let's just say the end of 2022, and also about the recent crash. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, like if I was going to bet on the price, I would bet by then 2022 it recovers over 50k. I think it's due a little bit of a sideways price action. It's had a good run, didn't it? Got to 68k, I think, all-time high. I think the next big push will be when the next halving comes. If you think about it, it went from like 3k before COVID to like 68k. It settles now at say 35 to to 40k for the next year, if it does the same thing, 10x is 10, 20x again, you're talking about a 250, 500k Bitcoin, aren't you? So I think, I think it's a scarce resource. I know a lot more about it than I used to. I didn't really used to embrace it. Wish I had embraced it 10 years ago. But I do think that I think we're around about the 50k level, hovering around there soon, and up and down. And then I think it'll go for another boost a little bit nearer 2023, 2024. So, I mean, if I'm being honest, if I had to put a pound in anything, I'd put it in Bitcoin out of all assets. So I guess that's how bullish I am on Bitcoin. Yeah. You've got to take the drops, haven't you? And what happens is when there's a big crash, they call it weak hands, don't they? That guy Michael Saylor, the big MicroStrategy Bitcoin guy, he says, I've read some of his videos and tweets, etc. And he always talks about having strong hands and holding. And I think what happens is when it dips, the people that don't really believe in Bitcoin, the people that are just speculating, they kind of sell out, take their profit, or sell out in case it crashes. That then multiplies and causes more price action. So it can tumble quite quickly because of human nature. I think people that believe in the technology and believe in Bitcoin, believe in crypto, they kind of hold on to it, or they buy more when it dips.
Right. I got to ask you, because I think part of the funny and not so funny part of this is when you are dealing with, you played some high stake games. I know you've played the highest buying tournament in the world, and you're in the industry, right? So you personally, I'm sure, have had some variance with Bitcoin in terms of like short term, right? Whether you're getting paid in Bitcoin potentially or settling in Bitcoin for something. Have you personally, or do you know of any stories without using names of some like insane swings? Because like you could be playing the highest stakes cash game in the world, right? Win or lose some, but like in the short period of time where your Bitcoin you were settling or getting paid could actually be much bigger than your win or loss. Do you have any stories like that, or know of some that? Can you give us one?
Stories like that. Yeah. A few situations have happened where, I mean, sometimes you lock it up in Bitcoin. So you'll say you owe me 50,000. You can either say you owe me 50,000, or you can say you owe me 1 Bitcoin. And I know a few people that have got it right and wrong. I know that a few weeks ago, somebody agreed a pricing number of Bitcoins for quite a big transaction, and that went the wrong way for them. So that is one of the issues, the volatility of Bitcoin. That's why it's quite interesting when you think about stable coins that are out there. They take away the volatility, but then obviously with stable coins you've got how they're backed, etc. So I mean, stable coins are probably having the biggest impact on poker, I would say, because it allows people to effectively make transfers to each other around the world without the volatility. I really think with Bitcoin, people, a lot of poker people are believers in it, and they're kind of holding on to it.
Yeah, I think poker players are conditioned more, built for this, to have swings like this. And, most people aren't prepared for 10, 20, 30% drops overnight, not to mention the markets, they close on the weekend. But Bitcoin, you're up different hours of the night, or you go to the bathroom and, knowing that it's live at all times. It's kind of, it's beautiful, but also sick in the same sense. I think people that like action, like poker, it's got a little extra place in their heart for the volatility, for sure. But I wanted to also know, on your upcoming plans, because you have been someone who's very public. You're in the eye. People kind of monitor what you got going. You're always on innovative projects. What are you excited about in poker in 2022 with things opening back up, flights in general? Is there anything on the top of your list that you just can't wait to get into, or that with not playing so much live poker in the last couple of years that you have coming up?
Well, I've played once in 2 years, and I haven't been playing online. So yeah, it's going to be nice to see some friends and play some cash games. I mean, one of the things a lot of people have been doing is playing online, playing on apps, playing on some crypto sites. I haven't really played myself, but there's definitely been a lot a lot of high stakes action. You see things getting posted, like you saw the Tony G Coin Poker post the other day about some guy was sitting with 2.5 million on the table in that game. So there's been some pretty high stakes crypto action. And again, getting back to what you're asking about poker and crypto, I did a podcast with Joe Ingram a couple of years ago, and he asked me what he thinks the biggest online poker site will be. And I said, I do think there's a good chance it might be a crypto site. I think there's Phil Ivey, I was involved in one, Virtue Poker. I didn't know that much about it, but Tony G with his Coin Poker. There does seem to be a few of these crypto concepts coming up, but obviously the masses aren't ready to adopt yet. So, maybe one of these crypto sites ends up being one of the biggest, because effectively it does break down borders and allow people to play with each other. Well, obviously you have regulation in the way. But in terms of myself playing, I'm going to Vegas in a couple of weeks to see a few friends. Going to go for lunch with Andrew Roble, meet Bobby Baldwin, going to bump into Gary Katz as well, and hopefully Jason Kuhn, and catch up with a few guys. Maybe I'll play a poker game there if someone like JRB invites me. But we're having 2 kids now, 1 and 3 years old. To be honest with you, it's been a bit of a blessing. The lack of travelling, lack of playing poker.
Yeah.
Spend more time with the family, but also put more plans in, write more plans down and get more things done for what we want to do over the next few years at Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is that one of the I guess it's not about what happens, how you react to what happens. Is that kind of one of the focuses that you've noticed where immediately like, wow, this is going to shift so many plans, there's so much change, so much, difficult things. But would you say that looking back now, how COVID's been, has it been in some ways, in that sense, a blessing that you've been able to be in one place, kind of focus, plan, and get to spend more family time? Is that how you would?
Yeah, I think it's been a blessing, because sometimes you can get on the poker treadmill, you're going to all the live events, you're doing PR, and you start playing, and the next thing you know, you're not spending any time at home. And the first year with my daughter, Indy, we travelled for the first 12 months non-stop. For the last 2 years with Indy and Bobby, the brother, we've spent a lot of time at home. So for me, it's put life into context a little bit more, to be a lot more selective on how many times you play, because poker can be draining. I mean, sometimes you can go. I mean, at one point, I remember we went to. We had this like traveling cash game with myself, Bobby, Andrew Roble, JRB, Sean Dempsey, all cool guys to hang around with. But we went to Jeju, to Dubai, to Rio, to Vegas, to Miami, and we ended up being away for like 3 months. And I don't think I'd do that ever again now, having had this experience at home during COVID. I think I'd want to keep my trips to like 4 or 5 days, go play, or whether it's to go and do PR, see my friends, and do much more shorter, more frequent trips than having these big long gaps.
Yeah.
So COVID's definitely changed my outlook on how I want to play poker or be involved in it. I mean, we've got lots of good plans to do some interesting live poker projects. Unfortunately, it's got some bad news this morning that the Super High Roller Bowl, we tried to joint event that we were going to have in Russia in March, which they're both my partners and been working with. Also, we had to call that off and move it to Cyprus because of the COVID in Russia at the moment. So COVID is still causing problems for all live operators, both in terms of venues don't feel confident booking an event and events getting cancelled.
Well, that's good to know, because I was supposed to get on a plane to go there for the commentary. I'm sure I'll hear about it soon in the next day or two. But
just found out, yeah.
It was actually.
I only found out today.
It was, I literally just got confirmed on that like not long ago. But I did know that obviously
sorry about that.
Yeah.
Well, you can come to Cyprus now. I think it's the 1st to the 14th. and it's been quite sunny, first to the 14th of April. So they're going to move into Cyprus and have it there. But yeah, the COVID thing is definitely messing a lot of plans at the moment. Especially, I love live poker. We did the ISPT in Wembley, that crazy thing on the pitch. We've done multiple Caribbean events. We worked with Triton on Triton London. We did the Grand Prix tour with partypoker, where we went around all the football stadiums. Just some of the crazy things we've done. We've got some good plans to do some more live events around the world. It's not just about the club, and it's difficult to get those plans moving with this COVID situation. So yeah, it's been a blessing in some ways to spend time with the family, but it's been awkward when you're in the live poker arena.
Gotta ask you, Rob, late night poker. I've been to Dusk Till Dawn, beautiful back room, the setup. I saw some plans for some high stakes action. What is going on, and what are some characters that might be taking part in that?
Well, we're currently building a studio at Dusk Till Dawn where we can produce better quality streams. Obviously, like a baby brother to the amazing PokerGo production, but I think we can improve there. And we want to stream high stakes cash games. We want to do a bit of a live with the bike type thing. And I've always wanted to bring back a version of late night poker. I tweeted about it about a month ago. Got like 25,000 views, so it's obviously a popular concept. Spoke to a lot of the old guys. Simon Trumper, who is the live poker director of Dusk Till Dawn. He's been speaking to you, John Duffy, who actually won it. I didn't realise John Duffy won it. Speaking to Barney, Bowman, Joe Beavers, speaking to Corin. Some of the older legends of what I would say of the UK poker scene. That's how I started playing poker, was watching late night poker. So I've always wanted to bring back a version of that. Maybe 49 players, 7 tables of 7, and invite some of the original legends to come back. Obviously, with less in Devilfish, he can't come play, but we do the Devilfish Cup. Maybe we can run that at the same time as we run this version of late night poker. So yeah, I don't know whether it will work because it's an old format. The shootout into the final table, it doesn't get used. I think the World Series is one of the only shootout events available now. It's an old televised format, but hopefully we can make it special using new sets and bring a bit of nostalgia. But I think gauging from the interest that I've got on Twitter, I think it's going to be popular. We just need to decide the buy-in and get that right. And that'd be something that we'd like to produce, at the club. And be great. Phil Helmuth won late night poker. He's been to the club once. I don't know if I can persuade him to come over and make an appearance. But that's just a real niche, interesting, nostalgic product. Hopefully we can bring a sponsor in, maybe Luxon or Coin Rivet could sponsor it. I don't think we could have an online sponsor because we kind of would maybe we say to each online site, you can put a player, you can have a player, etc., and kind of make it a collective thing. And that's when it's sponsored by Full Tilt. It was all Full Tilt pros. I don't think that really works as well. I think we should try and make it back as close to the original show as possible. So that's a project that I'm really looking forward to working with Simon Trumper on. I know he actually won it himself. He wants to play, but I want him to actually be the TD. So maybe we'll have to compromise and let him play and bring somebody else in as the TD. Well, that's certainly something I'm really looking forward to doing.
Awesome. And I got to ask you on the same kind of wheelhouse, Premier League. I played on the last one, Premier League 7. It was a lot of fun. That format, you mentioned the shootout type thing, but what about like that sit and go points kind of fast, 12 player kind of league with the format that's interesting? Is there any thoughts on that? Do you enjoy Premier League? Have you ever played it?
I've never played it, and it wasn't really something that I could ever get into myself because I didn't play all the different games. I mean, the shows that I love late night poker. I love high stakes poker. I love the big game when Barry Hearn was doing that. But I never really got into Premier League because of the different element to it.
Right.
Definitely streaming high stakes cash games from Dusk Till Dawn and getting some guys to come over and playing some games there. I think that's something that we want to do with the new studio. But yeah, I think open to anything really. It'd just be nice to produce some content at the club, and obviously it helps the club's brand when you're producing this content. And it's also a lot of our friends who've not been for a couple of years want to come over. So hopefully we can do some interesting streamed events. I think the studio will be ready in April time, and we can start working from there. You can come over and play, or actually you can come over and commentate. I think they've built a little commentary booth there as well.
All right, maybe a little everything. I do enjoy both. So, but yeah, I want to ask you about Dusk Till Dawn and party poker. You know, there was a time when party was really challenging stars. You know, during COVID, and there was a lot happening and was moving forward. And then, you know, as of late, it seems like GG's sort of just come out of nowhere and taken everyone by storm. You know, it's been a kind of shift in positioning within the industry. What are your thoughts within the online arena at the moment?
Well, I find the online very interesting. I've worked with everybody. I've worked with stars, party, iPoker networks before that. I haven't actually worked with GG. They're pretty new, but I've kind of seen the whole thing evolve the last 15 years since we had our own skin on Major Logic. So I watched the online with interest, and what GG done is frankly quite amazing. The software the players love, but unfortunately, GG is a private company and is able to supply the global liquidity a little bit better than the public companies. And I think there's been such a clampdown in regulation, often around people wanting to get the public companies wanting to get licenses in America, that I feel that Party and Stars have had to shut a few markets, be a bit more tighter on VIPs, put a lot more controls in place. And you know, poker players, you know, if we want to deposit 10,000. We don't know where that 10,000 has come from. A lot of the time, could have won 2,000 in a cash game. Could be getting staked 20% by somebody. You know, we can't always prove where our funds have come from. It would be very difficult to audit it. And a lot of the time, the sites are blocking poker players from playing the sites that are owned by big corporations, because they want to get completely all these controls and regulation in place so they can apply for these American licenses. I think that has had obviously an impact on the online poker landscape. And I think Attain were the first. Attain, they changed their name from GBC. They own Party Poker. They were the first to come out and say, we're not going to supply poker in any market unless it's licensed or there's a license available to apply for. So I think they shut, maybe I'm wrong, but maybe they shut 50 markets, 50 countries. I think Stars have started to shut a few as well, but maybe not as quick. Maybe Flutter aren't as
risk
averse as Enthusiast. But I think Stars probably, you know, I heard that they shut Russia and they just operated through Sochi now. Now I've heard that Stars are making, you know, obviously wanting to play everything completely right for America, which I think part of that's allowed GG to come to fruition. But I don't think it's just that. I mean, people rave about the software. GG have made some tough decisions on banning players. People say you just ban winning players, but they're banning people who are, for various reasons, I believe. So yeah, I mean, I guess GG is the biggest now. Maybe gross gaming revenue wise, because they've got so many high rollers. I was looking last night. I was at to surf and see how everyone's doing, and they got like 100 players for 25k. Something crazy like 800 players for 10k, guaranteed at 5 million. So certainly at the higher buy-in end, GG seems to be pushing it, and I think difficult for the sites to compete with such tight controls on what we can do. We've got ACR as well over in Costa Rica. They're starting to do things like the Venom. There's a lot of competition, isn't there? One of the things that I don't think the sites have thought about is when live poker does start up and you've got WSOPs, WPTs, EPTs, millions. You've got all this like 3 to 5K buy-in tournaments around the world. Maybe they won't be able to do all these so many high buy-in tournaments online, because obviously when you can't play live poker, a lot of that money that was used for live poker has been sucked up online. But it's certainly an interesting landscape. But you've got to take your hat off to GG for coming from effectively nowhere and not always doing things that listening to pros and saying and doing what pros expect them to do. And some of the prize pools they're creating are huge. But PokerStars is also a hell of a business. I'm sure they're not going to stand there and let GG keep on marching forward. They've almost done it a bit unopposed, haven't they? I mean, Party never really could compete with GG because Party was closing markets all the time. But not closing markets where you have to, closing markets because it was the overall group company's strategy. It's an interesting landscape, online poker at the moment, and I still keep expecting one of these crypto sites to suddenly take off a little bit. You heard they don't seem to be gaining much traction. There's a few of them, isn't there? I mentioned it before, but maybe that's something for the future.
Yeah, and speaking of high stakes and a bit about I want to understand a little more about Rob's home game. I hear you say you're going over to Vegas. This was one of the most watched, anticipated. People loved it. This game, Rob's home game. Is there plans for a Rob's home game part 2, part future? Is this going to be a yearly thing? What's your plans with that?
I'd like it to be an annual thing. I think Brett and Hanks is a lovely chap, and Kerry Katz and the guys organised it, and Andrew Roble actually did most of the running round. I mean, I was at Andrew's wedding in London in September, and he kind of did a lot of the organisation and made sure we turned up, etc., and helped a lot. And we said we try and do it like once a year. But obviously with COVID, we've not been able to do it. So, certainly, because PokerGo made all the effort to put that on, I think we would always want to do that. Give PokerGo the first choice to host that game. I mean, they're doing so many good things in poker at the moment. The quality is amazing. So yeah, it would be nice to do it once a year. And I think it wasn't just watched so much because of the size of the stakes. I think it was watched so much because of the personalities. Like people got introduced to Rick Solomon, who we've known for years, but people haven't really seen someone play so orthodox as that. Also, yeah. JLB was great with this compilation or whatever he put instead. But yeah, it'd be nice to do like once a year, try and get everyone together. I'm sure PokerGo would want to do it because they did get decent traffic from it.
For sure.
I'm going in Vegas in 2 weeks. I'm meeting Gary Katz. Hopefully bump into Brett as well and Jeff, who does great commentary. And maybe they'll want to do it again. You kind of have to do it when everyone's in town though, so I have to pick something. Has to either be around the World Series or has to be around when everyone's like in Miami playing a game and they want to come over. I think you do need that mix, those kind of key personalities to make something like that work. It's not just about the stakes that we're playing. But yeah, I think hopefully do it again.
Very cool. Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's.
Yeah, that was your question and answer actually. As I was going to do Team Party Poker. Yeah, I mean things will continue. I think Party have booked for 4 to 6 events at Dusk Till Dawn next year. Obviously, been difficult to plan with COVID. So we'll just progress and see how things go.
Yeah, I think people underestimate how much work goes into these events, how much planning, and then to have to in terms of let's just take your game, Rob's game, or running a home game. You deal with how many people to deal with for an event on that scale. Even now with Sochi now postponing or changing, it's a lot, right? People want to book flights, they want to map stuff out, so it's got to be difficult to plan for these major events and lock up hotel rooms and do these things and different now with COVID and have guarantees or whatever. It's got to be a little bit difficult. Is that fair to say? In terms of planning, it's got to be almost impossible to plan these type of events out in the future.
Well, the guys that I work with, are very agile. So my team at DTD, we have like the club, and then we have the DTD team that does all the events around the world. We're very agile, and so literally when Sochi got cancelled this morning, it was right. What are we going to do? Move to Cyprus, contact Cyprus, blah blah blah. Contact Kerry, contact Paul Wire, contact some players. Is Cyprus okay? So I think ever since we did ISPT Wembley and built those domes on the pitch, nothing surprises us. So I mean, we have some really good people in DTD, and obviously we were a big part of Partypoker Live before COVID hit, doing all those Partypoker Live events around the world. My team's is used to a bit of pain, so it's fine.
Right. You have a protocol in place. You're aware that it's possible, so you have it planned out. How do you think poker will do after this COVID period? Because we saw numbers go through the roof. We saw new people come in. I think overall, I would say, in my opinion, poker's in a pretty healthy state. Record numbers at the WPT Hard Rock, right? They had 2,500.
2,000 runners for 3K, wasn't it?
Yeah, and they had 2,400 a year before. Like, and with the glass up, people masks on. This was only 2 starting days. It seems very healthy. What is your opinion though for online and live poker? Call it post-COVID, hopefully here that we're kind of hopefully getting out of.
Well, I think the future is quite strong for live poker, because I think with GG partnering with WSOP, with Stars having EPT, with Party having millions, 888 doing more. 888 Live has been doing well. This is a great event in London. Maybe ACR will put their hat in the mix and start doing some live events. So whenever there's competition, that's going to be good for anything. And I think there's more locations opening up. There's been events in Argentina, events in Brazil, Asia. WPT kind of pioneered the events in the Philippines and in Korea. So, and Japan's getting really popular for poker now. More and more casinos are getting legalized. There's going to be five casinos, I believe, in Brazil. So I think the future is really good for live poker, to be honest with you. And I think if we can get some more of these kind of social gaming sites, I know GG just do Club GG. I don't actually know what that is. I think it's a subscription model. Like you have WPT Club as well. So I think having these non-real money online sites where people can win prizes to different events like that could really be good for online. Could really be good for live poker as well. I think WPT, you just pay a subscription and you win prizes to seats to different WPT events. I think GG's a similar concept, although I'm not an expert on it. So I think I think the future's good for live poker, with more and more venues, more and more countries opening, and hopefully more and more people getting introduced into it through a lot of these social apps. I never understood why Zynga haven't got involved a bit more in live poker. I mean, they could do some really cool stuff, even if they're just sending people to say 500 buying events as a free play site. I think they could probably do a lot as well. I really do think now online poker's changed, where the games are tougher. People know how to play more. I think the free play sites where the losses are restricted, the subscriptions, etc., become more important to introduce people into the game. But I do think now online poker, because basically the games are tougher, a newbie's got less of a chance of lasting to become interested in it. So I think some of these social sites, they could do a big contribution towards live poker. Guy comes and plays live, loves poker, then he gets to play online, and the whole ecology kind of starts to work a little bit more efficiently.
Yeah, I do want to say, I mean, there's a lot of tools now, because I think it's an interesting time as well that you see, like you hear Appeal Solver. I got to shout out Hybrid Poker, which has got a really cool, innovative product. There's Odin. There's a ton of stuff. There's all kinds of tools, DTO. There's a lot going on. I think
Stop.
What's that?
You can't stop it.
Yeah, but so like the interesting part though is fundamentally, I think poker as a whole is stronger. The foundation, more people are interested. More, you saw like Queen's Gambit, right? That show with chess, it's blown up. Chess has gotten super popular to these type of games. So I think that like once the information is not so intimidating, Bill Perkins training to beat Landon Tyson, he had to wave the white flag on the spot that he was given. Like once people are able that are interested, that can get better without, it's not about like doing the work. I think it's about being overwhelmed on what you're supposed to do. If it becomes more simple for someone to get better, then also you'll see like it kind of the gaps level again. And then it's kind of like, I think fundamentally people want to go play poker, and it's like you want to look a guy in the eye or be in a spot and you feel like it's roughly close and you have to make a decision. If you feel like it's super lopsided, it's not so fun. So I think that there's going to be
the gap's big now though. I think you've got those people that know how to play the game as close to perfectly as possible, or have studied and can play it 25% off perfectly. And then you've got the guys that do absolutely nothing, like me. I never studied in my life. So the gap now between the recreational players, like myself, I'm not interested in looking at a solver, and the guys that can play. I think the gap's wider, which is why I make the point that live poker and maybe more social poker is a better way to introduce people into the game rather than necessarily online poker at the moment. I do think that the gap's wider. For example, we did a tournament at Dusk Till Dawn last night. It was a £30 buy-in. We got 240 players. I mean, out of 240 of those players, I'd be surprised if 4 of them had used a solver or studied. So if they go online, they are going to find it more trickier coming up against more accomplished opponents like yourself, Jeff. Have you ever tried a solver?
So I've done coaching. I've done various so this is my point. The answer is yes. I've seen and worked with some solvers, but it's not like part of my regimen. And that's also why I'm kind of in that weird, like the content side. There's only so much time in the day. And, a guy like Patrick Leonard or Mormon or Bonomo or anyone, Adamo, right, that are like in solver world and really have done a lot. The thing I'm trying to say is, though, it's not about that I'm lazy, but if you take some of that hard work now, it's easier to say, hey, show me how to do it, what you're doing, and sort of just learn it instead of, because it's intimidating. I wouldn't know how to go into PO Solver and plug in a spot from a tournament I play today. But I know 40 guys or people that do that and just offer the services that will do it or show you, or they take examples in difficult hands and sort of show you and instruct it. And you can learn pretty quickly by seeing those type of things. So
yeah, but you're kind of in the community, aren't you? So you know people that can help you. I'm talking about the 240 guys that came to Dusk Till Dawn last night to play a £30 tournament. Who 10 guys are plumbers, 20 guys are taxi drivers. They're not in the community of using these tools,
right? And their free time, they'd rather watch a YouTube video.
Wider.
They'd rather watch a Twitch stream or highlights from a thing than go and study. I get it, and that's probably true for most. So yeah, I think that's a fair statement. But yeah, like I said, I think it's healthy. I think it's fun. I also think it's interesting when there's a method for people to study, something that's more fun or easier, not intimidating. I think you'll find it if it's gamified, like quizzing, and it's more easy to follow and do. It's better than plug in your hand from PO Solver.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I know some of the sites have put inbuilt HUDs into their software to try and teach people. Maybe in a few years' time there'll be an inbuilt solver where it just says this is what you should do in this position. Maybe that'll happen. I don't know really. I think AI in poker could go a number of ways. I don't know what.
Well,
I mean, you could literally.
The other thing I would say though.
Play a game where.
Yeah, go for it.
You could literally play a game online where it just popped up and said, "I think you should do this," according to PO Solver. I mean, I don't know whether that's good for the game. Whereas in live poker, I've heard of people having sheets at the tables and things like that, but it's a bit more raw, isn't it? And it's a little bit more more natural.
The other thing I'll say to that is I believe with poker, just like it used to be 7-card stud or 5-card draw, right? In the game now it's no limit hold'em, then no limit Texas hold'em. Now there's PLO. Now there's short deck. So like the game, you find ways to make it fun and creative because fundamentally you got personality types that like to gamble or like to play a game of skill. I can't play you in chess because if you're better than me, you're going to smoke me. It's not that fun, right? Or golf, there's wide gaps. Whereas like you find online now, there's a lot of knockouts, progressive knockouts. Like now you see these bounty courses, right? Teaching you what some of the math and things like people are figuring out or learning. But you see this like high collision, like let's say the Triton Million becomes a knockout tournament, right? Where it's £1 million and you get 250 back for a knockout. Like there's always going to be ways to, I think no matter what, with online poker, you can do games, find things that are creative, new, innovative that make it a little more kind of, you got to keep it fun and that there is a, that there's still the gamble to it. So I think like it'll always evolve in some direction and make it more, even look at shot clock, right? Shot clock's been brought up in the last few years. I think it's a great change. Big blind ante, that's been a big save on time and makes things less. There's ways to sort of always improve. And of course, just like good cop, bad cop, there's bad, pluses and minuses. RTA will get better. There'll be solvers and stuff. So it's just a bit of, I think as a whole, the industry is moving forward.
It was interesting when we got involved with the Triton Million, when we segregated the players. So the Triton Million, we said the field's capped at 48, 24 businessmen, 24 pros. They played the first 8 levels together, and then they played 2 more, and then they get merged in day 2. I mean, that's obviously a direct admission that the skill level falls apart, isn't it? But obviously, at £1 million, the higher you go, the better the players are, the better the pros are. Sorry, generally, because they reach that level. So that was actually segregated, and it's interesting you mentioned about this type of subject because one of the events that I want to do this year is the Coin Rivet Invitational, which is we don't do £1 million, we do 100k. Still a huge buy-in, but we take on and adopt the same concept that the Triton Million did, where we'd probably cap it at 64 or 128, depending on what the demand was. And I'd quite like to do that tournament again, but at a lower buy-in, where we have the pros in one section, businessmen in the other, and then they merge and play against each other day 2. But by thinking of these formats, that is a direct admission that there is now a bigger gap between the pros and the recreationals. You do have some people obviously in between, but I think like everything, when you're putting in shot clocks, when you're putting people on ante in, when you're making these types of changes, when you're having invitational tournaments where the pros play against each other, the business play against each other, and you're segregating them. Whether you're making clocks quicker, you're making it more, basically taking the skill factor out by turboing a few things. Or like you say, all these things evolve, and I think everyone, including me, should be like really open-minded about these type of new concepts that maybe do put the look factor a little bit more look factor into poker. Because the newbie who's starting isn't going to be enjoying losing every single day, is it?
Right.
So, I talked about social apps offering live seats to give them the poker experience. I think there's lots of different things that can happen in poker to negate the fact that it is arguably becoming a little bit more like chess. Because fundamentally, poker's great. You meet loads of people, you make loads of friends. I would have never met you if it wasn't for poker. Cultures mix. You can go to poker and meet someone at the poker table and go out for a beer with them that night. Keep in touch with them. It's exciting. Poker is actually like life. It's you're making decisions, and you can get rewarded or you can get punished by those decisions. And sometimes the thing about poker is sometimes you can make the right decision and still be punished.
But that, to your point, that's the same as look at some of these NFL games or high variance and thing. I mean, that's like I think you said it. You already hit it. Like life, there's really not many better metaphors that you can do that are constantly in a situation teaching you about life and variance. Like,
No.
the math is the math. And it's like, you've dealt with big wins, big losses, and you learn a lot about yourself and others, how they handle it, how they handle your success, your failure, how you handle, all this stuff. So it's, I think it's one of those things where I think that's one of the biggest parts about poker is if you play poker, as long as you do it responsibly, don't risk your role or your life, like put yourself in you're going to get experiences out of poker that you can use and put in your everyday life.
100%. It's like that song by the Gambler. You've got to know when to fold it, know when to hold it, and know when to fold it. Life is, and the book by the great Mike Sexton, Life is a Gamble. Poker is romantic in that respect, and I guess some of the more veterans of poker like myself, we kind of wanted to try and stay a little bit romantic, but I'm sure that I'll be playing poker until the day I die. I love playing, and the friends and the relationships that it's given over time are fantastic. You love poker, you're passionate, you love playing. When you lost that big pot against me on the boat, you probably learned a bit about yourself there, didn't you? When I said once, Jeff, remember that?
Yes.
You still remember about that?
What do you mean? I made a vlog about it. I got that hand. I think about, I don't know, maybe twice a day, but yeah, it was a big one. And, it was big and it was hurt, but I got it in good, and it was the hand played itself. I would have got it in the same as you, right? That hand. That's another thing. Like certain things you can't do or control, and it's
make the right decision and you can get punished.
Yeah.
But generally poker as a whole is just very interesting with the whole community feel. One of the things we're working on at the moment is I said last year that let's try and work on a kind of global poker community type thing.
Yeah.
And we're putting some work into that at the moment. Maybe people working together a little bit more. I know all my sites compete against each other. Sometimes you get venues competing against each other, but for the good of the game, I think we can all work together a little bit better. Like I would love to do. I've always dreamt about doing a huge tournament where everyone came together.
This is my next question. This was it. This reminds me of our talk at Montreal, Bill Perkins. Remember this? I think it was like, I forget, 2019 or so. We were there and we were talking about this, like a way to get like a record size, some crazy sort of thing. So yeah, give me your thoughts. Have you thought more about this? Do you think this could happen?
I would love to do. We've done many things, ISPT, many different projects. But, I would love to do a project, maybe 2 a year, where we could somehow persuade the online sites to all work together, qualify players, etc. I don't know whether it will ever happen. But all the live venues could get involved as well. So I've got this idea that all the live venues could be offered a day one. Everyone plays, their players play, and everyone's in the money on day two. So let's say the buy-in was like 3K, min cash is like, say, 5K. So everyone who makes day two gets their 5K for their travel, expenses, etc. And then we have day two somewhere, which is like everyone meets on day two, and you've had day ones online on the different sites. You've had day ones live around the world in different venues. And then the whole of the poker world kind of comes together for the huge prize pool on this day two. We kind of did that concept a little bit at the ISPT, but we only had 12 weeks to set it up. But I just like the idea of everyone coming together, different countries, different players from different sites, and maybe doing that like once, twice a year. So that's something that I'm working on at the moment. But like I have tried to work on collaborative projects before, where I've tried to be like a middleman to try and get everybody involved. And they've not always worked out, so maybe this one won't. But so I still love the game, and I want to get involved in some major projects. And that concept we talked about with Bill Perkins was like, how do we create 100 million prize pool?
Yeah.
100 million is probably not possible, but you could certainly start something that was a little bit more collaborative. So one of the issues you have asking the online sites to all work together on one project is that They don't really want their players to see sponsorship or see brands from other competitors. So it's always difficult. I think the closest to it is World Series of Poker, where they used to kind of let, about 10 years ago, they used to let various venues qualify players use their brand. But obviously, I think when it got exclusively sponsored, that stopped. I also think EPT Monte Carlo, when John Duffy was there, he used to basically try and get more people involved than just a site sponsor. But that's something that's really interesting.
Yeah, I'm with you on that completely. Well, Rob, listen, I know, we've done podcasts on my channel. We've had many conversations. It's always a pleasure to chat. I know you got a lot going on, and I hope people learned about you. And where can people, where's the best place to know and keep up to date on the updates within poker and you personally? Is Twitter is where you prefer? Is that your most outlet on getting messages out, or where can people get stuff from you?
Yeah, generally Twitter is where I ask people's opinions, and they're very valuable. So yeah, that's generally, and obviously the DTD website. We're just doing a new website now, which will have our club events on and have our international events. But yeah, generally got a lot of friends in poker, and they'll spread the word. But we have got some good and interesting projects in the pipeline.
Very, very cool. I did want to, just last thing as we're closing out here, I wanted to ask you about, in general, sort of the, if you look at the let's take golf, right? Like the PGA or any sport really, like FIFA rankings and system. Do you feel that poker is it adequate, like in terms of being able to find information and track players and sort of their overall profiles? Do you feel like poker is, it just seems like there's a big enough pool now and a lot of people that are within the industry in a way. Like, do you think that other than like Hen and Mob, right, which tracks players' results?
It was GPI, wasn't there? It was Hen and Mob, and then GPI kind of had a database. Yeah. I think Pocket Kings have got a database.
Pocket 5.
Again, everyone's got their own little databases. Sharks go have a database, don't they? Mm-hmm. There's not one common place you can go to just get that information and know that person. I know when you go on the ATP websites, everything's fantastic. It's all in front of you, isn't there?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying. Like when Triton does something or Poker Go, it'd be kind of cool to like have one uniform thing where it's just like, all right, this is this guy. Here's it. Oh, he played this tournament yesterday online. Yeah. He had this thing. Here's his socials. Like, so I some ideas. I think poker has an opportunity still to kind of have a really big boom. And again, I mentioned Queen's Gambit, like kind of putting chess in like a really uplifting and interesting light. Poker, I would say too, like rounders, some of these things that are like the Bible for poker, or the content, like they're kind of seedy in a way, right? Like even like Hen and Mob, the name is like mob, like for like it's like it's kind of portrayed in this seedy underworld, which again, of course, there's some bad like different shady things in gambling.
They tried to change that though with the GPI, didn't they? The motto was Sportify Poker, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So they kind of tried to make it look like more like a sport. I think it definitely done. I think Poker have done some of that with their rankings, etc. But I guess one of the issues is it's always a commercial person that's doing it, so it's got a vested interest. So they won't get collaboration. I think the only way you could do it is just completely like independent body, but then you'd have to get everybody to contribute. I think the nature of poker is it's quite a selfish activity in many ways.
Yeah.
It's really hard to get everyone to work together and do what's always best for the game. So I think that's why it ends up being a little bit fragmented often, even though it's such a community as well. So you've got like you've got two poles. You've got the fact that poker is such a strong community, and then you've got the fact that there isn't any one like a governing body or whatever you want to call it, or one place to go. I don't know whether that will ever change. People can try at it. You have the Poker Players Alliance. We're going to try and do something to get people to collaborate. I think I put out last year that we try a 5-year plan to create this. I didn't call it a union, but I said to create a collaborative. Because I do believe it could take that long to do to persuade people. That's why I said, I'll fund it for 5 years. I think we said we fund it for 1.2 million. But it literally is such a hard job. And I think people can fail. I think when people say, I'm going to set this up, we need it in poker, it doesn't work in 6 months. People can quit. That's why I've said it's a real long, for us to do something with all our friends and people like you involved, all the people involved in the community, just to build this kind of soft, non-aggressive, I like the name GPC, Global Poker Community. I bought the domain, and Rachel's been designing the logo. I think softly does it over a long period. I don't think a big, we're going to launch this and do this. I think it annoys people when I think you've got to start off small and roll and build the members up and do it softly. But exactly what you're talking about, yeah, I think there should be something that connects. And in today's world, social media, content, etc., that should be part of it.
For sure.
So I'm really interested in that. And I put a lot of PR about that last year that I wanted to do it. But I actually did say that, we'll have a 5-year plan for it, because I do think it would take that long to get all the different subsections of poker to kind of agree to work together a little bit.
Rob, I got to ask you about Tony G. I see back and forth. There's some banter. I know him and Phil have a special relationship. Kind of hard to know what's really going on. What is your relationship with Tony G?
Good off the table. Go for lunch together. Love his company for a drink. But as far as poker concerned, he's a bit of a nemesis of mine. He bust me in the big game and did the famous line, champagne for the casino. He's bust me out of an EPT. He killed me at the King's cash game when he had 3 outs. Actually, the only game I actually played the last 2 years of the merit when he was there. And someone told me he had 3 outs there, a 400k pot. And the thing about Tony is when he beats you in a pot, for 1 second, he kind of looks a bit sheepish and then he explodes. And with me, he always seems to do champagne for the casino. I've never seen him do it for anyone else.
He's got a special place for you. It means a little more to him, I think. He likes to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like area. He beat me up in the area. I don't actually think I've ever won a decent pot off him in my whole life. And sometimes in poker you get that kind of nemesis. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I would love to win a big pot against him, but I'm just not sure the poker gods are ever going to let that happen. So it's just a bit of banter between us. I think he knows he's got my number. I think he knows I'd like to win a bit of money off him, so he can go to me a bit. But I mean, it's all fun off the table. He's an absolute gentleman. He's one of the most innovative people that I know with his NFT projects and Coin Poker he's doing. But on the table, he's just a real pain. I would love to wipe the smile off his face.
All right. Well, listen, Rob, as the first guest on Coin Rivet on the podcast, it has been a pleasure, and I do want to just stamp a price because I want to do this with every guest. What is BTC price on January 1, 2023? What's your number?
61,422.
51,422. And give me Ethereum just for fun, because those are the two big 61. Ones. I want to know where you're more bullish on.
Bitcoin price 61,422.
61. Okay.
Yes. And my Ethereum price is 3,721.
All right. I got it. Those are locked in. We're going to put that in. I want to make a graphic. We're going to ask Coin Rivet to make a guest prediction. Obviously, you got the hardest one because you're the first guest. You're the furthest away. Everyone else will have more information. So, you get a little bit of grain of a leeway on your guess. But let's see where it comes in. We will be doing and aiming for a weekly.
Plot it and see who was closest.
Yes. But obviously, we're doing weekly. That's the plan for the year. So it's going to be easier the further along, the more info. But BTC moves quickly. So it's not necessarily true. It could be a week out. And it could be a whole different thing. So, but listen, Rob, I appreciate it. Thank you for the time. Always great to chat. Look forward to seeing you soon. And all the best to you, the family, and cheers to DTD party, everybody, man. Thank you to everyone. And first episode in the books. Thank you so much.
We'll keep on trying. Cheers, Jeff. Take care. Bye bye.
Cheers.